Like in the editing? Or what?
Yeah, Ace will edit it and everything. So.
Okay.
All right, we're live, bro.
Yes, it, man. Let's go.
What's up, everybody? Welcome to the Until Midland Loves Jesus podcast. My name's Carlos, and today this is not Ace. We have a special guest with us, and I'm really excited for you to hear his story. Man, I've known Matt now for almost 10 years.
Yeah, since my kid's been going.
They were in
the
my
other
children's
church.
ministry.
Yes, sir. That's correct.
Dang. And so 10 years, we've almost known each other, growing in friendship. But really, we hadn't really got to know one another until probably the last year, maybe?
Yes, sir, since I've been back.
Yeah. And so, yeah, we have Matt Munguia here with us today. Today, we're going to share another real story. Matt, man, thanks for coming and hanging out with me today, bro.
Yeah, man, I'm excited, man. I've been waiting for this all week since you told me about it.
Are you nervous?
Man, I'm a little nervous, but I know when I came in here, man, I was just like, I want to get my story told.
Yeah.
So, I hope this touches someone and, just point them to Jesus, man, in all honesty, man.
Let's go. We've been hanging out. We kind of, just kind of have this discipleship relationship going on where you and I just hang out, bro, and we just talk. And so we were like, yo, we got to get him on the podcast. We got to get you on the podcast. Right. So, man, episodes have been going great. We want to keep them coming for you guys. And so maybe some of you watching right now will be on the podcast, and we can just get stories out of Real Church because there's stories to be told.
Right, and if you have missed them, please go back and watch them. They're great.
Bro, be on. Have you watched them all?
I watched them all. Every time he gets live, I get on it.
Oh, you're on the premieres?
Yes, sir.
Oh, let's go.
Every single one of them.
So Ace owes you a Diet Coke.
Yes.
Yeah,
no, actually, I told you he owes me a Monster.
Yeah.
That's right. So I'm waiting, Ace, wherever you are.
Ace, you better have that Monster, bro. White one.
There you go.
0 calories.
A big one.
I like it. Well, I want to start off, dude, just real quick how we, again, your kids, I was a children's pastor here in town. If you watched the other one, you heard my story. I was a children's pastor. Met your family, met your kids, and, man, heck, at that time, Gracie wasn't even alive.
No. I think Alize was probably 7, 8.
Yeah, she was probably what Gracie is, because how old is Gracie now?
Gracie is 8 years old now, man.
Matter of fact, real quick, just introduce the people. Tell us a little bit about yourself, wife, kids, all that, what you do.
So my name is Matthew Munguia. I am married to Dolores Munguia, my beautiful wife. Shout out. Love you. I have an older daughter named Alize. She is 17. She's graduating this year, bro.
Dang.
Man, it blows my mind. I'm proud of you, Alize. Keep it going.
There you go.
And then my son, Matthew.
What school is she graduating from?
She's graduating from Legacy.
Okay, Legacy.
I am a Bulldog fan, so.
So that hurts. You're going to wear that maroon.
Yes, unfortunately. Okay. Wish she was purple and gold.
All right, so we got Alize, 17.
Yeah, so Matthew, he's 13 years old. He's going to Alamo. Okay. He'll be a freshman next year. And then.
Dang.
Yes, shocker.
What the heck, bro?
Man, they just grew up on me, bro.
Man, okay.
That's why I'm wearing this hat so my grade don't show. There you go. But and then my baby is Aaliyah Grace. We call her Gracie. I don't even know why we started calling her Gracie, to be honest with you. We just stuck a nickname. We're going to call you Gracie. Yeah. She was like, am I Aaliyah or Gracie? Gracie.
I had no idea her name was Aaliyah.
Aaliyah Grace. And we started calling her Gracie.
Whoa, okay.
And yeah, so that's it right there.
Let's go. How long have you and Dolores been married?
Man, we've been married for a good whopping, I want to say we're going on 17 years together.
17?
Married 10.
Okay.
And we were together for 7 years before we decided to get married.
Okay. So y'all have known each other for a while.
Man, we grew up together.
Okay.
So it was nice growing up with my partner and, finding everything out about each other in the midst of marriage, So it was awesome.
Okay. So you got a wife of 10 years, 3 kids, a beautiful family you guys have. Again, we've known each other for that long, but it wasn't until really Real Church was planted that we kind of reconnected. I remember we were launching Real Church, and I think you saw it online, maybe on Facebook.
Yeah, so my wife, she actually, I think it was right after COVID time.
Yeah, it
was. She had said that, she was, hey, Carlos is launching a church. So I was sitting there at the dinner table, and I was just like, man, I need to find a home church. So I called you.
Yeah, I remember.
Like at 10:45, 11 o'clock, and I was like, hey, man, I want in.
Yeah.
And you were like, hey, I think we're starting. You gave me a date of March something.
Yeah. It was actually, you called me the week of, and I said, hey, the Saturday, we're setting up chairs.
There you go. And I showed up.
Yeah, and you were like, we're there.
Yeah.
And you and all your kids are there.
Yeah.
Your wife.
The whole family, man. We were in it to serve and get it going.
Yeah. And so then obviously life happens, and then we move over here. You guys show back up here, and then we get reconnected and just building a friendship ever since. So, but I want to get more, dude. You and I have just been hearing parts of your story. I'm like, yo, it is by God's grace that you are sitting in front of me right now.
Man, by God's grace only.
Yeah,
That is it,
and
brother.
only, yeah. So let's dive into that, man, because we don't want that just to sound like a cute little thing that we say on this channel. But truly, it is by God's grace that you're sitting in front of me. Because you shared with me, man, as a kid, man, your childhood was pretty tough.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Talk to us about, like, the earliest days that you remember.
So I was born in Hobbs, New Mexico.
Okay.
And then we landed in Midland in 92 based off of my mother's account of when we landed here.
How old were you then?
I think at that time I was like 2 or 3 years old.
Okay.
And she was actually going to get incarcerated through the Texas system.
Okay.
And for that reason, we ended up getting raised by my grandparents.
Oh, wow. Okay.
So after that, it was me and my brother and my little sister. My grandparents took us in, and we lived with them for a good duration of our childhood life. But at the same time, also, she was also a foster parent. So we had this house. There was a 3-bedroom, 2-bath. And since they were foster kids, we've seen kids come in and out all the time.
Okay.
So we were just kind of just shifting around, making it work. I know my grandfather, he worked in New Mexico as a concrete finisher. So he was gone throughout the week. So it was just my grandmother raising my 3 siblings and whatever kids we had in the system there already.
So how many times, at different times, there could be how many other kids with y'all?
Oh, man, I think at one point there was actually about 7 of us in the house.
Okay.
So my grandma took responsibility for a lot of kids, including her bloodline.
Wow. Okay.
So,
and I know you say, like, you didn't come from much, so it's not like y'all were living in this
No.
mansion. Everybody has their own rooms.
No, man. I believe since they were foster kids, they got the room first.
Okay.
I believe that's how it worked.
Oh, wow.
And we ended up sleeping in the living room. My grandfather had an RV in the back. And there were times we got a little older, we slept in there. But for the most part, we were just either bunked in the room or throwing out a mattress in the living room to accommodate the foster kids' room for the guidelines that the state had at the time.
Okay.
And then, we lived on government assistance, plus whatever the foster system allowed her to have for the kids to have food and clothing or whatever. So it was all the government assistance aid. We were on a budget, and everything was just very minimized to feed all of us.
Okay. So growing up, so you grew up your whole life pretty much in Midland. You're a kid. You're seeing other kids come and live with you. You're living with grandma and grandpa. How was this any different from like the friends that you had, or?
Oh yeah. So I grew up on the east side of Midland by Al's Groceries.
Okay.
And it was the diversity wasn't very.
That's right down the
big.
street from my in-laws.
Oh really?
I go into Al's every once in a while.
Oh no. So I think your in-laws live by Guadalupe, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. Yeah. So I grew up in a predominantly black neighborhood.
Okay.
So me and my siblings were actually the only few Mexicans in there.
Okay.
So we adapted to their culture real quick. So
Okay.
it was like we'd get up in the morning and go hoop. That's
Okay.
all it was. So between them and us, we were just very different. We'd get up in the morning, eat a bowl of cereal, and just go to their house and hang out all day.
Okay. Dang. So you're growing up now. I want to get into, because it's really your teenage years where like life really starts happening for you.
Yeah.
Talk about that. You're being raised by grandma, and she's doing the best that she can.
Right.
With what she has, grandma and grandpa, and teenage years, man. Talk about when you were in school. Like, what did you go to school? Did you enjoy it?
So
talk about that.
When I was in school, this was probably about 12, 13.
Yeah.
At this point, our surroundings was very gang culture at the time.
Okay.
It wasn't like California, but you had your cliques.
Yeah.
And at this time, we knew that it was race with race.
Okay.
And At this time, it was just kind of just like you have to kick with the kids in your neighborhood. And then after that, it was just more like, okay, well, we're going to come together. We're going to form this little clique and kind of just defend our little territory on the block. And then after that, just growing up with that's just what it was, the mentality of just hanging out, sticking together.
Okay. I want to pause because I don't want to miss this part of your story too, because I didn't even realize it until years after our friendship started. But you're actually like you're legally deaf, right?
Yes, yes.
Legally deaf.
So
How old were you
I'm
when
hard of hearing. So
Okay.
when I was born, my mother either she claimed or she didn't know she was having twins. So we were born like at 6 months, me and my twin brother.
Okay.
My brother came out, and then all of a sudden they were like, "Oh man, there's another baby in you." So they pulled me out, and I was in the incubator for like 7 months, according to my mom's
Wow.
account. And I was just so small. They said I fit in a size 6 shoebox. And then life went on, and then before you knew it, I guess the school system found out that I couldn't hear right. So they did all this testing, and sure enough, there I was.
Was it because you were just like
I was
struggling to
born with
hear,
it.
or no? But were you like, how'd they find out? Was it just a screening they did for
The
every
screening
kid?
for the school.
Oh, okay.
And then they finally took me to the doctor, and then my grandmother was like, "We need to see what we can do to get you help." And I remember going to a doctor's office, and if you ever been to an audiologist, they set you in this little room with a glass, and then they tell you to do all these things, raise your hand, say this word.
Uh-huh.
And I could see the lady, and I lip read really well.
Okay.
So the whole time she's telling me to say these words, I'm looking at her lips, and I'm like, okay, airplane.
Yeah.
And she's like, wait a minute. She's turning me around.
How old are you?
I was about maybe 10, 11 at this
Okay.
time.
Okay. So you kind of knew a little bit.
Yeah, so
She would turn you around.
She turned me around. Man, the ball flipped. I did not know nothing she was saying, and she was like, I knew your trick. You could lip read. So after that,
Was that something you just taught yourself?
yes, because I couldn't hear, but I didn't want to sit in the front, right? No kid wants to sit in front of class.
Yeah.
So I sat in the back, but I couldn't hear them. So I would just look at them and see their lips, and I started picking up what lip movement and syllables were being used to identify the word. And not only that, I was in speech therapy. So that right there taught me a whole lot on how to read lips.
Let's dig into that a little bit, man, because failing a hearing test, they tell you, hey, you're really hard of hearing. You're going to have to wear hearing aids, which you still to this day, right? Like,
Yes,
do
sir.
you have them in right now?
Yes, sir,
Yeah,
I do.
you have your hearing aids in right now. Man, how did that – I mean, kids are ruthless, bro.
Bro, I used to get bullied.
Okay.
I mean, like people would like say stuff to me, and back then, man, they were so big that sometimes they had a box. You had to wear a box on your neck with the speaker,
I didn't know that.
and I did not like it. I would get made fun of, and then I would fight for it. I was
Yeah.
like, "Yeah, you're making fun of me. We're gonna fight." That's
Yeah.
it. And my brother, he was very protective growing up for me.
Okay.
So he knew, like, hey, this is my little brother. If you mess with him, you're gonna mess with me.
Yeah.
So sure enough, it was just always a constant battle of, I'm getting, really getting bullied, but standing up for myself at the same time.
Okay.
And then it got to the point where about 8th grade, I was like, I'm not wearing these no more because, for one, I can't get a girlfriend because no one wants a girlfriend because I have these things
You
in my
hadn't met
head.
Dolores yet.
Yeah. So I was just like, man, so I just learned to master lip reading, and I sat in the front of the class to eliminate wearing them.
Wow.
So when MISD came involved with it, they actually gave a teacher a microphone, and the hearing aid had an adapter on the back of it to where I could hear them firsthand
Whoa.
through the device to make sure I was getting the information for the school that I needed.
Wow.
But then it come to a point as I got a little older, I would just get the devices and put them in my locker
Yeah.
and be like, oh, yeah, the nurse has them. They're getting fixed just
Okay.
because I didn't want to wear them.
Yeah.
So,
That's wild, dude. I didn't know
yeah.
that. That's
I did
wild.
not like it,
But yeah,
man.
because kids are ruthless.
Bro, they're
And so
rude. They do not
it's that-
care.
But also, man, I think now as an adult, you might say that built something in you that the Lord uses too. That not just this tough man complex, because you get to know the real Matt underneath the whole skin and the tattoos. Like, dude, you're just a happy guy. You're chill. You're just a teddy bear.
I'm a goofy
But in that, yeah, you're a goofy guy. But in that time as a kid, man, like it made you tough.
Yes.
Because you had to defend yourself.
Absolutely.
And would you say, like, leading into your teenage years, man, like, again, you're still growing up in a pretty tough home. defending for yourself. You got a twin brother, a sister, and at one point you had to start defending for yourself, like literally
Oh yeah,
for life,
absolutely. Right.
not just at school for hearing, but for
Right.
life.
Oh yeah, absolutely. So we so I went to a family member in Odessa. They took us in for a little bit. Then I had another family member take us in, and then he was pretty aggressive. It was like all work,
Okay.
military style lifestyle. I didn't like it, And when we got back to Midland, me and my brother kind of took an account to like, hey, we got to figure this out for ourselves. So he started working at Whataburger, getting money. But not only at this time, he was kind of like the guy that you did not want to mess with in the neighborhood because he could fight.
Okay.
And then
He built that reputation.
Oh yeah,
How old
absolutely.
is he right now that he was working at Whataburger?
He was probably, I think, about 14, 15.
Okay.
And at this time, like, he was already doing knucklehead stuff, doing drugs or whatever, whatnot. And then I seen the respect that he got. And I was kind of away from it because my grandmother was just like, hey, do the right things, graduate, you got a future ahead of yourself. But I was so comfortable with my brother that he was my idol growing up. He was my hero growing up because of all the defensive he did for me.
Yeah.
And I was like, man, like, I want that. I want a piece of that respect. Like, I want a piece of that money. And then sure enough, man, it wasn't, one thing led to another. And then before you know it, we got involved in some stuff, illegal activities, so to speak.
Yeah.
And then we just started making money for ourselves.
Yeah.
And then there was a point where,
And at this time, you're still a teenager.
yeah, I'm still a teenager. At this time, I think I was about 14, 15 years old.
14 years old, drugs get introduced to your life. Lots of money gets introduced to your
Yes.
life that you had never seen before.
No, absolutely not.
And so, quote unquote, the streets respect became known to you and what it took to get that and to have that. So talk about like what were some of those things that you talk about? Like I don't want to just skim over it and belittle your story. Like were you guys involved in like dealing it? Like
Oh
what?
yeah, so right, my brother got involved first, and then he started selling weed first.
Okay.
And then after that, I had a little cousin. He had a connection, and one day he just took off. Said, "Hey, I'll be back." He came back with a whole ounce of marijuana, and then we just started selling to the neighborhood. And at that point, hey, when you have drugs, everybody's your friend.
Yeah.
Literally, everybody wants to come around. Everybody wants a piece of it. You start exchanging, and you just start building money up. But at the same time, it's put yourself in a situation you really don't want to be in.
Yeah.
And then my brother went on, and I think at this time I'm in high school, and we had this house right there behind Super Mercado that we got, and then he started a whole nother level of drug dealing, and I remember that it was another substance, and then that brought more attention because I mean the amount of money that it brought in for him, I was like, man, that's pretty crazy.
Yeah.
So I kind of stuck with the weed. I would go to school, little mint out toward Bach. I would roll little joints up, selling for $2 a pop to the skaters and people like that.
Yeah.
And then after that, I had a couple of kickers at the time were like, cowboy Mexican guys. They would ask, hey, do you know where to get this? Sure do. Sure enough, I started packing it, going to selling to them at school. And then we just started making money, man, just like that. But not only that, we both always worked a full job.
Okay.
It wasn't like the
so
drug
people
dealing.
weren't like
Yeah. I feel like our jobs, so my brother was working at Dairy Queen and construction.
okay.
And at this time, I was already working at Vanessa's restaurant.
Okay.
And I worked there for a good 5 years throughout this time.
Oh wow.
And I was just working and selling, but not like in a big quantity like he was. I was just enough just to keep myself afloat and just, have this crowd around me so I could say, okay, I can get to know people and network in a way that,
Yeah.
hey, if you need something, I got it.
Because at this time, like you're paying bills.
Oh yeah, I'm paying bills. We got this house, and I remember whenever we got it, we didn't have no money for furniture, and my brother did. So he went to rent a center right behind it, and he just furnished the house, Xbox couches, beds, whatever. He furnished it for us.
And again, as a teenager, y'all are teenagers furnishing a home
Right.
because of what you guys have gotten involved in, plus the jobs that you have. And so I mean, to any teenager, this looks like you're living the life.
Oh
Oh,
yeah,
you don't
man.
have parents over you? You don't
No,
have.
there was no type of legal guardian that was watching over us, telling us this was wrong and this was right. This is what we knew.
Yeah.
This was absolutely normal to us, given the fact that even other family members did it. To me, this was all I knew how to do, and I knew I was gonna make it work.
And so, is it fair to say, because I don't know if I've ever asked you this, like, church is not even a thought in your head.
Um, so my grandmother did get us involved in church,
Okay, okay.
but we didn't participate in church. We were just like, we're just here because we gotta be here.
Yeah,
Let's
okay.
end it. Let's go. And then same thing with high school. It was just like had a couple of friends reach out, hey man, I want to know, teach you about Jesus, and I'm just like, man, get out of here, man. Like,
I
I'm
got
just
money
trying
to make.
yeah, just doing, I'm just doing what I'm doing.
Yeah.
And at this time, it was just I knew about it, but I had no partake in it. I read the Bible at times.
Okay.
Doing this thing too.
Wow.
And I remember like there were times where I got in situations where I would be like, man, God, if you just get me out of this, I would stop. And gracefully, I got out of it.
Yeah.
And I was just like, oh man, like it was my luck, but it was God's grace
Yeah.
that got me through it all.
Yeah. Which
And
you
I
didn't know until now.
Yes, absolutely, 100%.
So you're selling drugs now, you're making money, you're furnishing a home, all at 15, 16. What, at that point in your life, because at that point you really start to ask yourself, like, what am I going to do with my life? Like, where did you see your life going at that point?
Man, I had no idea. I just knew that I just needed to graduate because I wanted to prove my family wrong. Because
Okay.
a lot of them were like, "You're gonna be like your mom, in and out of prison." My mom spent like 29 years in prison.
Wow.
So, because of her lifestyle, that's what we adapted to kind of,
That's all you knew.
yeah, to just kind of relate to her. Even when she got out, like she knew the people, and it just got connected that way. So I'm sitting there thinking, okay, well, what am I going to do? And I had a lot of teachers. There was a teacher specifically. His name was Mr. Rangel. He was a Spanish teacher. And here I am wearing Dickies, flannel, black rag hanging, choloed out. But he always knew something like, hey, Matthew, man, I don't think this life is for you. I think there's something better than you. I'm like, man, whatever, man. I'm just trying to just pass this class and graduate.
Yeah.
And there was another coach, Sam, was from Midland High. He would always tell me, hey, man, stop, man. It's not you.
Yeah.
Like, I know you're doing this because it's around you, but you don't have to partake in it.
Man.
Again, I didn't want to listen.
You didn't
I was
wanna hear it.
You don't know nothing about me, bro. I'm just trying to just do this and ride with it. And right upon graduation, I made a decision to where I was going to enroll for school to go to criminal justice at Midland College.
Okay.
So after I graduated, I got in trouble. I got stopped.
Okay. So
And-
pause. Up until this point, you'd never encountered trouble with the police, with the law.
No.
So you went through your teenage, like all the way through high school, selling drugs, participating with drugs, and not once got in trouble with
Never
the
got
cops.
caught.
Man. Okay. So now you did graduate
Did graduate.
as a bulldog, like you said.
Woo woo.
Shout out Midland. Hey, and pause. Shout out teachers and coaches, bro. Like,
Yeah.
man, they play such a pivotal role in our stories. But we're
Absolutely.
teenagers that don't want to hear it.
Right.
And so again, shout out to your teachers and your
Yeah,
coaches.
for sure.
But you graduate and you enroll into criminal justice.
At Midland College. correct.
How, bro? You're doing everything the law tells you not to do,
Not to do.
and you say, "Now I want to go protect
Yes.
this law." How did you How did that happen?
So right after that, I put it down for a little bit. I let it go because I knew what I was going to.
Okay.
And I said, okay, I got to make a change. Something has to change because it was like a generational curse.
Yeah.
So I was like, I want to make a difference, right? So I go into school, and I remember I had this teacher. His name was Robert Pete. And out of like 45 students, I was probably the only Mexican Chicano in there.
Wow.
And like he gave me a hard time. I remember at one point he was like, I think you're part of something bigger than that. Like, I think you're part of like a,
Cartel or what?
cartel drug gang. You just try to peep information. And I'm like, what, man? I'm just trying to change my life. So I went to go hit up the dean about it. And she was like, well, he's the teacher. Whatever goes on in his class stays there. So I'm like, they didn't help me at all.
Yeah.
So I ended up dropping out. And then I remember I was going to my brother's house for breakfast. And then I had forgot I had a stash in my Suburban. I drove a 1987 Chevrolet Suburban at this time too. They
Man,
were the big
yeah.
tank, and I got stopped. Then that was the first time I encountered the law.
And okay, I remember you telling you were actually smoking at that time,
I
right?
was smoking in the
When,
car
when you got pulled over.
when I got pulled
And we're
over,
not talking cigarettes.
and no, I'm smoking a blunt, and I have I think it was a 40 ounce of Budweiser between my legs, and it's like 11 o'clock in the morning.
Where'd you
Going,
get pulled? Do you remember where you got pulled over here in Midland?
I got pulled over on Cuthbert and Edwards.
Cuthbert and Edwards.
Yes, sir.
The law pulls you over. You have a joint in your hand. You're smoking it with a beer in your lap. You're what, 19?
At this point, I am fixing to turn 19 in about 2 months.
Okay. And
Okay.
so you get arrested, you get pulled over. Now you're at your court date.
Right. So after that, I went in and I met with the lady. I think there was like a cornered lawyer or something. And then I went up there to the stand. They told me my charges. What do you plead? And I said, well, no contest. And the lady was just like, if you get caught or get charged, you're looking at 5 to 10 years. And I'm like, man, I'm only 18 years old at this point. Like, what
Yeah.
the heck? And the judge actually was like, are you related to so-and-so? Called out my mom and my uncle. And I was like, yes. You know, those are my family members, my mom. And he was just like, okay, well, the lady had actually got information for me to say, like, the good things about me. Hey, you graduated high school. You know, you're currently enrolling in school and all
Okay.
this stuff. And then he was just like, well, what do you think we should do? And I kind of pleaded with him, like, hey, man, like, this is my first time offense. And this is all I know how to do at this point. And, you know, it's not like I was, like, trying to sell or nothing. It was just, I'm just a habitual user.
Yeah.
And he was just like, well, you know what? We're going to put you on involuntary probation.
Okay.
And then he gave me, like, man, like 200 and something hours of community service.
Dang.
And then he gave me some classes that I had to take, and that was it. After I completed all that, man, I think it went from like a no, it was like a felony 1 or 2 to a misdemeanor C. So it's still on
The
my
lowest,
record,
but it's lowest.
but it's like it doesn't even get pulled up if I were to go look for a job.
Okay.
And that is awesome because every time I go look for a job, when I think about it, you have to check that mark on their application. I'm just like, well, if I don't check it, it means I'm lying.
Yeah.
But if I do check, at least I'm honest about it, and
Yeah.
hopefully they'll give me that opportunity.
Yeah. So again, God's grace
Man, God's
is in
grace.
your life
And I had
right
no
now.
idea.
You have no idea. I want to pause. By this time, you and Dolores are together.
No,
Okay, still not together,
we're still not together.
but knew each other.
No,
Okay, you don't know each other.
no, not yet.
Okay. All right, so now what did that do for you? Were you like, all right, my life's got to turn around?
So at this point, I was just like, okay. So I stopped for a little while.
Okay.
But then I worked in the restaurant business. So I was a line cook at Venezia's restaurant. And then I remember at one point, some of the waiters were like, hey, man, do you know where to get this? Do you know where to get that? And what did I do? I get right back in it. I was like, man, let's do it. So I made some calls, you know, got what I needed to get, started flipping it. Not making a whole lot of money, but I wanted to be that person who said, like, hey, I know a guy who can get it.
Okay.
So I was like the middleman.
Yeah.
So there I was.
You were the plug.
Yeah, basically the plug. And I was selling to the waiters in the restaurant.
Man.
And then that went on for a good minute.
Okay.
And then
When you get involved in this lifestyle too, like, man, I'm sure as a kid you probably saw things like that you shouldn't have seen.
oh, man, I saw a lot of things. I've sold to people who I was like, why am I selling to you? You know, like, you're putting yourself in self-harm. You know, self-harm, you got kids, but, you know, you're not really thinking about that when you're getting the money. You're just like, hey, if you're willing to put it at risk, I'm taking the money.
Yeah.
That's on your life.
Yeah.
So that was it.
Yeah.
And then right after that, again, the plug went dry. I went dry, stopped doing that. And then right about 20 years old, I got an apartment. And the guy that I knew that got me the apartment sold crack cocaine. And he knew that I smoked weed, so I would just go down there and smoke weed with him and just talk and just drink and chop it up. And then one day he asked me, he was like, hey, do you want in? And again, I was like, let's do it. So here I am, cooking crack cocaine in the microwave. He showed me how to make it, bro. I had to go get the powder, and we were cooking it up in the microwave.
Man, I hope this makes the podcast because, again, this is all real, man. This is real.
Oh,
This is
yes.
a part of your story. I just got to check with Ace to see if the YouTube will allow us because I don't want to cut this out because this played a big part in your life.
Right, absolutely.
You're cooking illegal substances. Let's go there.
There you go.
And again, you're back in this lifestyle that the judge gave you a chance.
Absolutely.
And you took it for a little bit, but now you're back in it.
Back in it.
Did it lead you to a path where you encountered the law again, or did you?
No, I never got caught with the law again, but I saw a lot of stuff that I did not want to see.
Okay.
And I saw, saw people destroy their lives over the substance that I was giving them.
Yeah.
And I had a little bit of remorse towards that. But then again, when
So you personally never got involved with it yourself, like using?
no, it was just all
Again,
about the money.
God's grace.
Yes,
Because most of the time, people who are involved in it, like,
Right.
you're
Oh, yeah.
gonna eventually get in it.
right. So after that, man, what was I in that time? I ended up moving in with my brother at his house, and I remember he let me have his daughter's room. I was working 2 jobs. I was working at the Hilton and Vanessa's, riding a bike to work. And at this point, I went out one night and I started doing the illegal substance.
Okay.
And I was a user for a little bit, and it didn't take me down a dark spiral, but it had me at a point to where like my mindset was like, I need another hit. So I was addicted to a sense, but not where I was like drowning myself doing
Yeah.
crazy stuff to
You were
get it.
functioning.
Right. So my excuse was I work in a restaurant. I'm working 15, 14 hours a day, and the substance would keep me up and keep me going.
Okay.
So one night I go out with a friend of mine, and he brought some stuff from Mexico, and he was like, "Oh man, this stuff is strong. Only do a little bit, blah blah blah." And when you're on the run, you're influenced with alcohol. You're not really thinking about that. I did it, boom, and I don't even think I ever shared this with nobody. Maybe my brother, but when I did the substance, my heart rate was just accelerating, and it scared the crap out of me. So I told my buddy, I was like, "Hey, bro, take me to the ER."
You thought
So
you were dying.
I was like, I'm dying. My heart's fixing to pop open, bro. And I went to the ER, and automatically the doctor pulled me back up there, and I'm just like, man, he's like, what did you do? So I told him what I did,
Okay.
and he said, okay, well, they had me hooked up to some IVs and got my heart rate settled, and he said, I want you to look at me, young man. And I said, okay, doc, get your finger and stick it in your ear. And I said, okay. He said, stop doing it. And I was like, okay. So again, I walked out of there with no issue, left it alone after that, didn't pick it up,
Dang.
and that was it.
And that's I can't help but to continue to go back to God's grace because
Yes.
people who are using don't just cold turkey walk away
No.
from that stuff.
No.
And you walk away from it and you're like, all right, I got to get my life together.
And then this is where that night I went home crying, bawling, trying to get my brother's attention because I thought he was asleep in his house, and he wasn't there. I went to go look, no one was there, so I'm crying, and I'm just like, man, God, if you're real, you need to send me somebody that's going to keep me in line.
Oh, wow.
Not even a week later, I go to Walgreens on the corner of Andrews Highway and Midland Drive.
Okay.
And I seen now Dolores, my wife, putting things on the shelf. And I was with a buddy of mine, and I was like, bro, I'm going to go holler at her. And he's like, you're lying. So I was too scared to do it, right? So I'm just like, hey. So I went in there one time, and I acted like I burned my hand. So I'm like, hey, ma'am, can you help me find some cream? I burnt my hand. So she's stocking stuff, and she's like, man, whatever, dude. Like, she didn't even look at me. She just said, it's over there in this aisle. And I'm like, well, I guess I'm nobody.
Yeah.
So, a couple of days go on, and probably a week later, I had a buddy. Mind me, I was riding a bike at this time, and I didn't want to ride my bike, and I was like, hey, bro, if you give me a ride, I'll give you some gas money. He said, all right, cool. So he ended up going to Walmart, and I'm sitting there, and I'm smoking a cigarette off the bench outside of Walmart, and sure enough, my wife starts walking by, and I'm looking at her. And by the way, babe, I'm not going to tell your version of the story. Mine is more legit. It's real. So she comes out, and she says hi to me.
So she recognized
yo,
you.
Lord, she just said hi to me, hey.
Okay.
And I was like, okay, cool.
Did y'all
So,
know each other at this
no,
time?
I didn't
Okay.
even know her.
Okay, because
There
y'all
was
didn't go
no
to
communication
no
whatsoever.
same school, nothing.
Stranger,
Okay.
stranger. So she says hi, and I'm like, oh, okay, whatever. Just some broad just walking by. And then after that, she comes by again. And then she was like, hey, what's up? And I was like, oh, what's up? So, we talked a little bit. We exchanged numbers.
Yeah.
And then that night, we were on the phone like little kids all night.
Yeah.
Within a couple of weeks later, we moved in with each other.
In a couple of weeks.
Yes.
So that was like love at first sight at Walgreens.
Yeah. I would say it was love at first sight because she has something about her that.
Not on her side because she didn't look at you, but
Yeah. So she has something about her that was just attracting.
okay.
And honestly, what I think it was is that she was so mature that she made it real, real firm that, hey, this is where I'm headed. If you're
Okay.
going to continue to live this lifestyle or just call me whenever you want, we're done.
Yeah.
And I was like, nah, like I want to be with you,
Yeah.
and I think we're going to work out great.
So was that by her finding out a little bit like who you are and what you do, where she was like, I don't want anything to do with that.
Well, she didn't know none about my past.
Okay.
She just knew I worked, and that was
Okay.
it. And then so we went to go stay at her mom's house. Her mom let me move in.
Okay.
And we stayed together right there. And then, life is going on. We're both working, just contributing to financially stuff. And then her mom didn't want me to be with her. So I understood that at that point. And then after that, we ended up getting an apartment together. And I think she knew I smoked weed and cigarettes at the time.
Okay.
And she was just like, oh, whatever. And then we get an apartment, and then sure enough, my true colors start popping out.
Okay.
She starts knowing, okay, like, you do X, Y, Z.
Yeah.
And I'm just like, well, yeah. And, it was just like, oh, man, like, I don't want to be with a guy like that.
Right.
So then she made it very clear. She was like, hey, either you're in or you're out.
Yeah.
And then after that, I had to make a decision. Was I going to be in this relationship, or was I going to just continue to live the party life?
Yeah.
So I gave it all up, cold turkey. Just work.
How old were you?
She had just turned 21. I was about 22 at this point.
So y'all are still young and babies.
Oh yeah.
Babies.
Oh yeah.
You moved in together, and you're both working. Is this like, do drugs now like leave your life?
Yeah.
Everything about it.
Yeah, I never picked them up. I just drank, smoked cigarettes. That's all I
Okay.
did. And
Okay.
then she was okay with that. And then years later, go down the line, I think whenever I found out that Matt was going to be born, I was like, oh, wow, like, okay, now I got to provide for a family.
Yeah.
And
Because at that time when y'all met, was it Alizé in the picture?
yeah, Alizé was in the picture.
Alizé was in the picture.
That's
She was
right.
what?
She was about a year.
She's a baby.
She was like a year and 5-6 months at this time.
Okay, so kind of like my story. You knew like, okay, she's a woman. She's
Oh,
already
yeah.
caring for another life. Like
Yeah.
I got to get my stuff together.
Oh, yeah.
She knew where she was going.
That's right. That's right.
Because Alizé was one.
That's right.
Okay, so now you three are living in your own apartment, right?
Yeah, we have an appointment. Matthew
Okay.
was just born.
Matthew's just born, and at this time, church and Jesus still nothing.
Nothing. And I think I want to say prior to Matt being born, she told me she was Catholic. And I said, well, hey, I'm Christian. And we didn't know how we were going to mix it. It was just never talked about.
Yeah.
We just went out, partied, go to work, drank, whatever. And then I think after Matthew was born, we started looking into faith.
Okay.
And she was like, well, I'm Catholic. And I said, okay, well, let's go check it out.
Yeah.
And I remember, going through that discovery, and I knew that the Bible had said,
Had you been in a Catholic church up until that point?
oh, yeah, I have before.
Okay.
It scared the crap out of me.
Okay.
So I didn't like it.
Okay.
So after that, I would just kind of just like, hey, based on my faith, I would just like, hey, God says, don't worship any of the idol before I'm a jealous God.
Mm-hmm.
And kind of just pointed out.
So you knew a little bit.
Oh, yes. Yeah.
Okay.
So I've always read the Bible, by the way.
Okay.
I would just never really engage with it
Yeah.
as I am today. It was
Okay.
just like read a little something, and then, if it stuck, it stuck. If it didn't, it didn't.
Okay. Okay.
And then after this, we start looking for a church.
Yeah.
So we start looking at other churches in the area, and man, I'm telling you, man, like every church that we experienced was dead.
Wow.
Even though there was people there was music, somewhat greetings, I never felt welcome just due to, you know,
I want to pause right there, because we always say here at Real Church we think there's tons of great churches in our community, right? Do you think now looking back that maybe it wasn't the church that was dead, but that you were spiritually dead?
now with what I know, absolutely,
Yeah.
100%. I had no spiritual life whatsoever. It was just like, in my mind, the way I put it today, the way I thought back then, was everything was a religious practice.
Okay.
It wasn't
Yeah.
engaging.
And it was because you were spiritually dead.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And so you're walking in these churches, they don't move you.
Nothing.
Nothing. So did y'all end up finding?
So we went to one church for a good while.
Okay.
And we showed up, and I'm kind of just sitting there looking at it, and then and mind me too. At this point, what I thought about faith was religious practice.
Okay.
You show up at your Sunday best, you dress nice, you have a good car wash, your kids looking good, you go in there, worship, pay your tithe, and you're saved. Like, that's it. That's all God wants from you.
Okay.
And then
To look good.
to look good, put up a good facade for everybody.
Yeah. But at this time, I mean, I wouldn't say that y'all were like living quote unquote bad lives, but you just thought, if I do this, then I'm good with God.
Oh,
But I
absolutely.
still live the way that I want to live.
Oh, yeah, I was still living me. I was still doing me. It was
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
I'm going to do what I got to do, and, I'll just take that up with God when my judgment day comes.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah.
So now you got two kids, though. Now you got two kids, and you're getting a little older, a little more mature. You're looking for church. More because of Dolores? Or, like, was that a mutual thing?
I think that we both were looking for something to fill a void that we did not know was there amongst each other.
Okay. Because y'all did the drinking, did the partying.
Yeah.
and then
She
still-
drank a little bit. She wasn't a big drinker. She just babysitted me the whole entire time.
Okay.
So we just went out and did our thing.
So the nightlife just obviously wasn't feeling that. And that's when y'all
no.
came to the decision, like, hey, let's look at faith.
Right. Absolutely.
Okay. So now y'all find a Christian church.
Right.
Right?
Right.
Tell me, does it get better? Do you feel like you encountered the Lord at some point?
Man, at this point, I didn't think I encountered the Lord. I just think that I was telling myself lies to make me believe that I could do this on my own at that same time.
Okay.
And then after that, we just started looking, man, and then.
So what you thought of the church, you were actually just living. Like, if I just do my religious acts,
Absolutely.
I'm good.
Absolutely, 100%.
But no relationship.
Well, yeah, because, the pastors at that time, I really had no mentor to sit down and tell me, like, hey, this is how faith works.
Okay.
I just assume around everybody else.
From what you
If
saw.
they're doing it, they look good, they look like they got money, look like they ain't got no issues, hey, we're going to fall in the same category.
They look blessed.
Right. Absolutely.
Man, okay. So at this point, you still have no relationship with Jesus.
No.
But you're introducing your family to church.
Right.
How long did that happen where you guys just played the game, if you will?
Honestly, man, I think we played the game all the way until we started coming to Real Church.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah, like straight up, honestly.
Yeah.
And I remember whenever we first went to the gym and we were getting involved, again, that mindset of if I do these things, I'm good was still at play. And, I was serving, I was doing the sound booth, the sound booth or whatever.
She was doing kids check-in.
Yes. And then, but I also, too, that since there wasn't a lot of volunteers and we were still kind of growing, that's all I did.
Yeah.
So I really didn't have a chance to, sit down and grow until I went home and watched it. But then again, I had no understanding of what I was reading.
Yeah.
So it was just like, okay, well, whatever.
Check mark, done.
Yeah. And then after that, obviously Real Church is growing.
Mm-hmm.
And then I remember prior to exiting the gym, we all came over here while it was all empty and, gathered together. And I was just looking at this place and I was just like, I think I'm done with church. I said, I'm checked out. Like, this is just exhausting. I think me doing me is better. Like, I know I believe in God and I feel like I can just do it on my own.
But not through church.
Right.
Man, that's powerful. You, man, I love honest people,
Right.
and I love that you're honest. But like, man, we were just playing a game.
Yeah, absolutely.
Even up until y'all started coming to real church at the
Absolutely.
school, you would say it was kind of a duty. It
Right.
wasn't
Yeah.
necessarily
It was a chore that I did I thought was going to get the check mark and get me into heaven.
okay. And then you finally realize, like, I think I'm done.
Yeah.
What? And you did. Y'all kind of stepped away. It's kind
Yeah.
of like
I just said, we just stopped going. My kids didn't notice it, but we walked away. And of course, COVID hit at that time, and I was just going online watching whatever I could just to kind of feed my faith a little bit because it was still bothering me. It was still something telling me like, hey, like you're missing out, you're missing out. But I remember I was just like I was so used to being isolated throughout my whole entire life.
Yeah.
I thought isolation was the best thing for me at this time. So not
And that's
only
what you
did I
did.
no, so not only did I isolate myself, I isolated my family,
yeah.
and that was like the hardest thing for me to accept today.
So y'all withdrew from the church. You're focused on work. A gym was a big passion.
Yes.
And again, like let's pause and go into that, like, because you and I both know how far God has brought you from that.
Oh,
But
absolutely.
you said it when you said doing me's better,
Right.
and I think the gym gave you that validation.
Oh, absolutely, man. So my brother got sober, and I was already working out at the time, but he was in a recovery home, and I remember him talking about the workout, and just to see how it made him happy, I wanted that happiness too. So we started doing it together. I was already in it, but I wasn't as in it as he was.
Yeah.
So when I followed his footsteps into it, man, it took off a whole nother level. It was like, when I was angry, Jim, sad, Jim.
It
When
was
I
the new drug in your life.
Oh yeah, it like it was another substance that took control over me, and
Yeah.
I had no idea.
Man, I want to talk about that because obviously we're not against working out
Right.
and being healthy, but it can get to a point in someone's life where they don't even realize that they're worshiping the person in the mirror that they look at.
Absolutely.
And is that what you would say you were at in that point of your life?
Oh yeah, man. Even with working out, it was even though I knew I had a wife and I had kids, I put myself first before everybody. I'm gonna do what Matthew's gonna do. I'm gonna pay my bills, be a dad, be a husband to an extent, but I'm gonna take care of me. So any way that I could escape to go to the gym, just to work out my emotions or whatever I was going through, that was my safe place. And the mirror became my biggest validation to where I was actually like looking at myself, trying to scope this figure in my mind, and then just by dedicating the macros to food, the workouts, the time, and just putting everything on the burner and just worried about me.
Yeah, because it wasn't just like I got an hour after work. Like you like engulfed yourself in it.
Man, I would go at lunchtime during work, and then after that, I would go after work with my wife. And if she didn't go, I went. I said, well, if you don't want to go, I'm going.
Yeah.
And I would go spend another hour and a half. I didn't get home till maybe like 8:30, 9 o'clock. Had no family time. Ate. It probably
Chicken and rice.
chicken and rice.
Yeah.
That was it. And basically just put everyone on the back there. Hey, good night. Love you. Get up in the morning and do it all over again.
All because you knew I want to do me.
Right.
You were living
Right.
this is all about Matt. By this time, like, again, you said you isolated. Let's get back to that. So at this point, you're just engulfed in the gym. That's what you care about, work, taking care of your family. You were still providing, still being the husband,
Right.
being the dad. But you knew you isolated your family from the faith.
Right.
And at this point, real church was growing. And,
Oh, yeah.
And I remember we lost connection. Like,
Right.
man, that's like, you ghosted me, bro.
Yeah, I
You
did, bro.
ghosted me.
So I remember I called. Well, I've always kept up with the
Online.
sermons online.
Yeah, I remember
and
you
then
telling me that.
I remember like my spirit was just I was missing something at this point.
Yeah.
And I remember I
Because the
called
gym's
you,
no longer giving you that satisfaction.
nothing. Well, it did, but my spirit was calling for it, and I had no idea it was my spirit.
Okay.
I thought it was
okay.
just like something that was in me that was weird, and I was just, I don't like the way it makes me feel, but it led me to turn on YouTube, watch it, and I'm like, oh man, okay. And then after that, I would just go back to doing me.
Okay.
And then I remember one time I called you at Home Depot, and I'm like, hey man, I don't remember what we talked about, but I remember I told you I was in isolation, and you were like, bro, that is a dangerous place to be in. And then that's when things started changing a little bit. So I'm like, okay, so I'm talking to myself, I'm like, what is the next step? I'm going to go to a real church. I'm going to be embarrassed because I walked away from my faith, and I had no idea how people were going to look at me. Because mind me, every other church that I went to, there's always judgment.
Yeah.
So automatically I assumed I'm going to get judged for me leaving.
And I remember you sharing that fear with me, like saying, man, people are going to be like, bro, you ghosted and now you want to come, like, and I just remember telling you, like, nah, dude, you know who we are.
Right, absolutely.
You know exactly, like, come home.
Right.
And so, and it still took a couple of weeks. Like, you didn't just show up.
Oh, no. Out of the, man, thank God for my baby right there. Man. It's getting me emotional right there. But she, I remember her asking Dolores, when are we going back to church? And I knew that she was calling for it because she had a void in her life, and I knew that God was missing at that point. And as a father, I was just like, I'm failing in this area. What can I do?
Man.
So I put all my pride aside, and I was just like, we're going to go back to real church. And Dolores was like, man, I don't know. And I'm just like, hey, like, trust me, we're going to go back. And man, like, God, I'm so thankful that I came back. And actually, when I first came back, bro, the same way that you, Claudia, for one, the way that she looked at my wife was like, oh, man, you're here. And everyone in this building looked at me like there was no shame. And that right there took a lot of, like, relief off my shoulder to be like, I'm home.
Man.
I'm home.
That's beautiful. And I could tell, dude, like, it's getting you emotional thinking about it. Because, you know, we've been saying here at Real Church, we're trying to build big people.
Right.
And you were like, man, I'm the leader of my family.
Right.
And I've actually done them. I've removed them from a place that is necessary in their life. And I'm responsible for that. But, man, kudos to you for having the humility to say, we're going back. Like, people don't go back.
Right.
And again, here's God's grace in your life.
Right, absolutely.
Through your daughter.
Right.
Praise God that Alize, all she said was, when are we going back to church?
Absolutely.
And because of that, you guys show back. You guys show back up to a real church, and again, greeted with nothing but love.
Nothing but love, bro. Absolutely.
Nothing but love, but man, even when you came back, we're in 2025. That was 2023 or 4.
2024. We came back like March of 2024.
Okay.
So actually, just
a year
since we've been back.
And let's start March 2024. You get here, you feel relieved that you're back in, and people, man, are loving. What shifted? Did you feel like you started playing the game again?
No. So actually, I don't know what you preach, but I started, engaging a little bit, started reading, and then I think we did the Holy Spirit series.
Mm-hmm.
And I was just like, man, in my mind, I was just like, ain't no way someone could talk to me this way. And then I remember I started reading, and then I started just hearing God's voice in a way that I had to, with great discernment, figure out what voice it was. And then once I figured that out, bro, it changed my life.
Yeah.
I started reading stuff, and then I remember I was reading the parables of the farmer seed. And I was at the gym, and I was like,
I want to pause real quick. I know you're about to tell that story, but we did the Holy Spirit series. But then, because you said you started reading, but I remember you sharing with me, it wasn't until the Church Sucks series.
Oh yeah, in the pages.
That
right there
pivotal
was
for you.
Pivotal, like the landmark to my faith, because I was like, okay, if you got to read to know God.
Yeah.
And that's when I figured out, Okay, in order for me to have a relationship with God, I have to open up the Word,
Got to be in the
and He's going
pages.
to speak to me through this. I didn't believe that for years, and when I found that out, He was telling me stuff that was correcting my life,
Yeah,
guiding my life, validating to, hey, you are chosen, you are a child of God, bro.
man.
When I started hearing that, bro, it was like I wanted to go.
How was that for somebody who, because you said that sermon like was so pivotal in your life that you're like, if I'm gonna know God, I got to get in the pages.
Right, absolutely.
So many people are intimidated by the Bible. They're so scared of it. Like, I don't understand. You said it like, man, I didn't know what I was listening to.
Right,
I didn't
absolutely.
understand any of the jargon or Christian language. So it wasn't until that conviction of like, I have to get in the Bible.
Right.
Man, talk to people out there who are like, man, I need to read my Bible. Like,
Yeah, man,
all the fear, because you probably still had fear about it.
right.
Didn't know where to start. Didn't know how.
Yeah.
Like,
So, man, I don't know, man. I just started reading, and at this point, I had no idea what conviction felt like or what it was.
yeah,
But I remember we spoke about it, and then, man, I felt like I was getting corrected through spirit, but I didn't know how to identify it.
yeah.
And then once I did know how to identify it, it was back to back to back to back. Like, it was crazy. Because once I identified it, I was just like, God disciplined his children. And that's what I knew what it was.
So I want to, now you're hearing the voice of God. The Spirit is speaking to you. So that means you had a moment where you were like, all right, I've tried the drugs. I've had the money. I, I've, I've seen a lot. I've done a lot. The gym, I've tried to worship me. Take me to that moment where it finally just clicked for you, dude. Like, where you were just like, I have got to live for him.
So at this time, I'm still working out.
Yeah,
I'm still kind of, posting pictures of me on social media, just,
I remember.
just checking it out, just looking at it, just doing my thing with it. And then I remember at this point, I did develop a relationship with God, and I spoke to Him daily.
Okay.
And I'm sitting here, and I was kind of battling with, am I going to serve me or am I going to serve God?
Yeah.
And at this point, I'm running on the treadmill, and I'm sitting there thinking about, hey, my macros for the week. What am I going to eat for the week? And then I was just like, okay, I got off the treadmill. I get in the mirror, and I'm looking at myself, and I'm like, man, I need a little bit more shoulders, a little bit more chest. And then I remember looking in the mirror, and the Holy Spirit convicted me right there. He specifically told me, like, you say you don't care, but you do care. And I'm like, I don't care, though. Like, I'm just doing it for me.
Mm.
He's like, well, if you didn't care, why are you looking at yourself in the mirror that way? And I was like, wait a minute, what? And then after that, I was like, okay, so I got back on the treadmill. And then I remember the Holy Spirit telling me, the same way that you prep your food, you take all this time and dedication to build your physique and everything, I need you to do that with me at this point.
Man.
And when I heard that, bro, I literally had my but God moment.
Beautiful.
I knew that in that moment that I would have to deny my flesh, put it down, and do what God is telling me to do.
Man.
And when I realized that and I prayed about it, it was just like my own consciousness wouldn't have told me that.
Yeah.
I knew that God spoke to me and said, if you want to be a servant, you're going to have to die to your flesh, buddy. So after that, mind me, I went through the Bible and I found out that, you have to carry up your own cross and everything like that, die to your
Right.
flesh. And then it was in that moment where I said, you know what, I'm done with the gym. I quit. I dropped it, didn't pick it up. I went from time to time, didn't feel good.
Yeah.
It actually made me very sad to say, like, the people that were there were going through the same thing that I was going through in that moment.
Yeah. And remind them, this is somebody who like was dedicated to the gym,
Absolutely.
dedicated to macro counting. And when you would look at yourself in the mirror, it was all vain,
Right.
all about you.
Right. Absolutely.
And ultimately, you were worshiping Matthew Munguia.
Right.
And when the Spirit of God spoke and said, the same way you do that, I need you to do that with me.
Yeah.
And that was your but God moment.
That was my but God moment.
And man, since then, that's when you and I have really been like digging into your faith. Like,
Oh, absolutely.
I knew there was a new hunger in Matt. I knew that this is a different man that's standing in front of me.
Oh, yeah.
This isn't the same Matt that even joined us in the school.
Right.
That was playing the game, Matt.
Oh, absolutely.
This is worshiping God, Matt.
Mm-hmm.
And there was just a difference about you, man. I could sense it. I could feel it. I could hear it. How has that been since? Like, tell me.
Man, God's grace, man. His faithfulness through me throughout my whole life, even though I knew it wasn't fair, it was all Him.
Yeah.
And, like when I think about my marriage, I really do believe that He sent Dolores for me. And if it wasn't for her being with her, well, if it wasn't for her unconditional love for me, I would have never got through it all.
Wow.
Because through it all, bro, she loved me through it all.
Yeah.
Like, and there was even a point to where I was like, I'm gonna mess up to see if she leaves. She stayed.
Yeah.
To this day, she is still there.
Yeah.
And what I think the beautiful thing about God is that when I learned how Christ loved the church, I wanted to love my wife the same way.
Man.
And I know that the way that I love her today is I try to do the best that I can. I love her the way that Jesus loves me.
Yeah.
And, her just being a strong woman that she is, just being there for me and, walking the faith life with me now, man, I wouldn't trade it for anything in the world, man.
So you're saying it's made you a better husband?
Oh, man, it made me a better leader in my household.
Man.
That's one thing that, walking with God had done so far, was show me how to be a leader.
And man, I want to help maybe even reshape that in your mind. I think God, like, you always had that leader in you. Again, you always provided. You were always there. You were
Right.
present. But you were still living for yourself. I think you were leading. You were just leading the wrong way.
Right, absolutely.
It wasn't that you weren't leading. You were just leading the wrong way.
Right,
And God put Matt, which put your whole family back on that right path
right,
of, no, this is where you lead your family.
right,
All dads are leading.
right.
The question is, where are you leading them to?
Exactly. Amen to
And
that.
and you were leading them down a life of like, hey, you do you. Kind of what we're talking about in this series.
Oh,
Like, that's a
absolutely.
cultural lie of you do you. You whatever your truth is your truth. Live your life how you want to live.
Right.
And Paul's telling us, no. Get your eyes on Jesus.
Mm-hmm.
And God had to get Matt's eyes on Jesus so that he could get the Munguia's eyes on Jesus.
Oh, absolutely.
And now, man, you're here. You're faithful members of Real Church. Like, we're talking. I don't know how many sermons you've made in the last 6 months.
Right.
Because of what God's doing in your life. You're
Mm-hmm.
You're outside of these walls pointing people to Jesus because we are on mission until Midland loves Jesus. And God's now not just using Matt, but he's using the entire Munguia family.
Absolutely.
And man, you're changing. God has changed and is changing the name of Munguia.
Right.
We always see in Scripture God changes names, and there's so much significance to it.
Mm-hmm.
And I've witnessed right before my eyes, like God, and you're witnessing it and seeing it and being a part of changing the Munguia name, because you don't want your kid standing before a judge to say,
I know someone. Yeah.
I know someone. Instead, like now, if somebody asks your kids, is your dad Matt Munguia? Man, there's going to be a pride to that. There's going to be an honor to know, like, that's my dad.
God-fearing man right
That's
there.
a God-fearing man. Dolores now has a God-fearing husband. And praise God for her. Like, because of her,
absolutely.
like you said, God's grace.
Mm-hmm.
God's grace at Walgreens.
Right.
God's grace at Walmart.
Right.
If it wasn't for her, who knows where Matt Munguia would be today.
Man, I would be dead or in a prison cell, 100%.
Yeah.
I always tell her that because it's like, in the moments of life, I get tired, I get exhausted with life. But when I read the Word of God, He reminds me of like, I'm here for a reason. I'm chosen,
Yeah.
and I don't ever take a day for granted to where I'm at today in life, because it's always because of His grace that I was able to be where I'm at today.
I, that's so true. And I want to end by you talking to the people watching this on YouTube, man, maybe listening to this on whatever, and maybe they're playing the game. Maybe they're all about themselves, man. Maybe their life is about them and them only. Talk to the people who are living that kind of life from the perspective that you have now. What would you tell them?
Man, across that camera, if you are trying to validate yourself through the world, you can't do it. It's always going to be a quick fix, but it's not going to last forever. Jesus is eternal. Without Him, there is nothing. You got to have Jesus, and you got to develop an intentional relationship. And I encourage you, if you're watching this podcast and you don't know Jesus, go find a local church, get involved, and start building a relationship. But not only that, find a community that will support you and help you grow in your faith. Because without Jesus, man, we're nothing, brother.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's what you just said, and most people won't catch it, but I want to highlight it. What he just said, find a community, find a local church. And this bleeds in our heart here at Real Church. He didn't say come to Real Church. He said go find a church. Why? Because we're not trying to make the name of Real Church big. We're trying to make the name of Jesus big.
Absolutely.
Until Midland Loves Jesus. And so we know that that's going to take so many churches. And for you and your family, it just so happened to be here at Real Church.
But not only that, man, I invite everyone, come to Real Church. Man, this is home, brother. Like, I'm talking the hospitality, the warmth, the love. You will find your people here.
Yeah.
I found mine.
Yeah.
And I just can't wait to meet, there's so many people here that there's not enough time on a Sunday to get to know everyone.
Yeah.
But if you take the time to do it, to go out to lunch, catch their number, get to know them,
Grab somebody's story.
There you go.
Grab somebody's story. And, man, I just think it's beautiful how now your story is in God's story.
Right.
Like, your story is still being written, man.
Oh, absolutely.
It's still being written. I think we're barely seeing the spiritual life of Matt come alive, and I can't wait to see. Like, man, you're a completely different person than you were a year ago.
Oh, absolutely, 100%.
I can't wait to see what you look like in 5 years.
I know, man. I was actually telling my wife, I feel like through this walk, I'm still a baby. I'm still learning.
Yeah.
We read every night together, and some stuff we don't understand, but it does speak to us directly, in a sense. So it's awesome where we're headed, headed here for Real Church, really, man. Just get involved and see what God has in store for us here.
Yeah. And I think dude, there's so much humility in that, because especially as a man, men don't like to admit, like, we don't know. And if we had more men saying, man, like, I just want to learn. I just want to I just want to know who God is.
Right, absolutely.
Man, the way our city could be flipped upside down if the men of Midland would get in relationship with Jesus.
That's right.
Especially, like, you're a man's man, dude. Like, you got the tattoos. You're in good shape still, because we're not belittling that.
Right.
You hold down a solid job. Like, you're providing for your family. Like, you're a man's man.
Right. Amen to that.
But being a man's man starts with Jesus.
Oh, absolutely.
And so if there's any men out there watching this, like, man, if you're gonna walk with Jesus, it takes humility.
Right.
It takes a humble heart. Because the Bible says he's close to those people.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
He opposes the other kind. He opposes proud people. And I think too many men, if we could just humble ourselves, and it's daily, bro.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Every single day.
and I know you're learning that. I'm still learning that. Um, but together and everybody's stories, man, we can keep pointing people to Jesus,
Amen.
man. What man? And I know we only scratched the surface of your
Man,
story,
just the
bro.
surface,
I
bro.
know you were nervous about too many details. Dolores is still probably waiting for a bomb to be
I bet
dropped.
she's like, oh my God, what did he say? Baby, I did not say enough.
There you go.
The
There you
next
go.
one, I will put it on blast.
Well, hey man, dude, I want you to know, as your pastor, I'm proud of you. I love you. It's a joy to see the joy of the Lord at work in your life. I tell you, man, being around you reminds me of why I do what I do.
Hmm.
And so, just as much as this place has blessed you, man, you've blessed me. It's a joy to watch you become a bigger person, a bigger dad, a bigger husband. Um, man, I just encourage you keep putting one foot in front of the other.
Oh, yes,
Keep
sir.
putting Jesus first in all that you do. I'm humbled to have a front row seat to your life and that you come and share it with me. And man, I mean it. I think we're gonna be blown away in 4 or 5 years. We turn this podcast
There you
on
go.
and see what Matt Munguia looked like in 2025.
I know,
Because
right?
in 2023,
Yeah,
who knows what God's going to have Matt up to in the
right.
Munguia family. Because, again, just like his grace has been evident from the beginning of your life, and he's still evident like that right now.
Yes, sir.
And I know he's at work. So, man, I
Yeah.
appreciate you coming on
Yeah,
here and
man. Thank you,
telling
man. Yeah, thank you for everything that you do for me, man. Personally, being my mentor, taking the time to guide me and disciple me, man. It goes a long way. Because honestly, I don't think without your mentorship, bro, I don't know what I would really be with like the human perspective of it.
Wow.
And
Thank you.
it goes a long way, man. And I know there's tons of people that want your time, but just for me to get that time of the week, man, I never take it for granted, brother. So thank you, man. I love you very much, bro.
I love you, bro. I love you. Well, that's it. Episode number 4
Oh,
of Until Midland Loves Jesus podcast. I'm telling you, everybody's got a story. Everybody has a story that can relate with someone. But more importantly, every story can have a but God moment. And it's just wonderful to hear people's but God moment. And so, man, I appreciate you guys tuning into these. We're enjoying it. Do me a favor, comment down below, subscribe to the channel, share it on your social media if it's blessing you, because again, we want to get we want to reach Midland, and stories reach Midland. God uses stories, God uses people to reach other people, and so, man, yeah, like, share, subscribe, all the things that YouTubers say, and let's keep pointing real people to a real Jesus with a real love until Midland loves Jesus.
amen.